Academically means your books and your arithmetic and your English and your science. So, academically. Secondly, ethically. Ethics is doing good, doing what is right. Thirdly, socially. And so the purpose of this is that these older students at Whitefish Christian Academy can have a conversation, which we hope most of these younger students understand, about how studying at Whitefish Christian Academy has impacted them academically, ethically, and socially. And I'm going to ask Maria and Hannah, if they will please, to choose your category.
Sure, we'll talk about, what's this on? Maybe this is not on.
Just hold it close.
Okay, we will talk about the social aspect of being at the Whitefish Christian Academy. And this is very spontaneous, so bear with us. But I think oftentimes we hear the most common reasons for parents moving their children to the middle school or the high school is for social reasons. Because academically, I don't think any institution in the Flathead Valley can necessarily top the Christian Academy. And so if there's not other reasons, it's mainly socially. And oftentimes I hear parents say, my kid's gonna be in a bubble here. And I kind of get offended when they tell me that, because I'm like, I've been in that bubble for 12 years, and I mean, I'd like to think that I'm socially okay. But, so it's funny when I hear parents say that, my kid's gonna be in a bubble, because if anything, your kid will be in a bubble protected from all the other crazy kids out there that try to steer them in a direction that isn't right. So if anything, it's a protective bubble, not a bubble that's going to make your kid socially inadequate by the time they're in high school. I don't mean to steal all the time, but I go to Glacier half day every day for athletic reasons, and I'm in AP Bio and AP Stats. And it wasn't a difficult transition whatsoever. I fit right in with all the other students, and I'm not considered one of the not cool kids at Glacier, if there's even such a thing. If anything, I have a ton of friends over there as well. And now when I look at some of my peers that are seniors, I think that they're silly. Like, they're still caught up in all the social drama that is childish. And the Christian Academy is what has allowed me to really flourish and rise above that lower standard socially. And so I think socially the Christian Academy will not hinder your children. And for all the children out there and all the students, the Christian Academy is not going to make you not cool by any means. I like to think I'm pretty cool, and I've been here for 12 years, so it's definitely something that if you can persevere and stick with it, you're going to benefit and be grateful by the time you're 18. So.
And I think a big thing is, too, at the Christian Academy, you have these values instilled in you, and they make you the kind of person that people want to be around. And people who are good people aren't going to want to be around good people, which is what you'll become. So even though you might not be caught up in the drama or be the most popular kid wherever you go, you're going to be attractive to the right kind of people. So you are going to find friends wherever you go, because you will have those values instilled in you that will make you a person that people want to be around.
And I think for parents, often there's just this constant nagging, and I did it to some extent to my parents. Like, all my friends are over at this place and all my friends are over here. But I've learned that those friends aren't worth pursuing, that those aren't the friends that I should be chasing after, that the friends that I'm chasing after now are the right type of people because certain values and certain social skills have been instilled in me due to the teachings at the Christian Academy. And so I guess it's a hard road in some aspects because it is small and you see the same faces every day, but the reward at the end is lifelong relationships. You're not going to be in trouble with relationships, or at least you shouldn't be, because at the end of the road you know like what people you want to surround yourself with, what people are going to elevate you higher to God, higher morally, academically, even athletically. Those are the people that you will pursue, but that takes time learning what your values are and what they should be.
Like Ryan?
Well, I would like to touch on one point. Maria briefly mentioned it. She did state that even though the classes are smaller, it does allow the students to bond with their peers better. I believe we all could agree with that point.
Yeah, I just want to touch on Hannah's point in relation to values and social life also. So in 8th grade, a lot of the kids in my class left and went to public school, and at that time I was kind of asking my mom, I want to go over there. It was going to be tough to transition into 9th grade with like 3 kids in our class, and now I'm just with Blake in my class this year, and it's awesome. I think it's I think it's really important to surround yourself with good people, which the Christian Academy absolutely does. And a lot of those friends that went over to the public school I know are not getting into the best things, and they're kind of turning their lives around in not a positive way. And so I think even though the Christian Academy is small and it's hard sometimes to be in a class, a very small class, I think it benefits you highly later in life.
And I think, if you stepped into our class, like, at a lunch period, it's so much fun. We are just ridiculous. But we have a blast. And, Blake and Ryan are always laughing and making jokes with Alex, and Hannah and I are just kind of rolling our eyes like, oh my gosh, boys. But those are the quality relationships that, like, I feel like you would want. The authenticity of our relationship, it's real. Like, we're real with each other, we're genuine, we're not putting on a mask, we're not clouded by, trying to make Hannah like me and I need to act differently. We're just real. And they accept you for being real. And I'm not sure why you would want anything different. I'm not sure where you're going to find that anywhere else at such a young age, because now everyone is so focused on their outward appearance. And social media, you put your best foot forward. And that's how it seems like it is in life, in school, with friends. But here, it's genuine, it's authentic, and I think that's all that you can ask for.
I'm going to change topics here, and I want to remind the audience, this is not rehearsed. They have not been coached. They approve the categories. Category 2. Let's talk about the bubble again. Thinking about Dr. Paulson's class and my class, how much do we protect you with a bubble from dangerous ideas?
There's definitely no bubble. We talk about every issue that comes up on the news. We talk about gay marriage, abortion, frequently is a conversation in our classroom. And it's not to be like something that should scare parents or even students. These are real issues. And how do we defend against them, or how do we coexist with them in a society that has both abortion and gay marriage and other religious issues? How do we coexist in a society with those things and also keep our Christian values and keep living a life that is towards a path towards God? And so we address those issues all the time. very real issues. And in Dr. Paulson's class especially, we talk about ethics and morality. And because we talk about those things, we have to talk about the things that are immoral and that don't align with our morality. We don't shy away from those things. We are presented with all of the facts, and then we are able to decide what path we want to go on. And so there's definitely no bubble as far as what issues we don't shy away from issues that are real issues in society. If anything, we face them head on.
And I feel like, too, we were talking about the values and how the values that are instilled in us help us socially later on. But especially in the high school, we talk and discuss why we hold those values and the philosophical reason behind certain principles of our faith. And I think that's super important. That way we're not just following these values like, oh, of course you need to be kind, but we actually get at the root, why is it important that people are kind? Why do we follow these principles? What is beauty? What is goodness? And what is truth? And I think that's been a super big impact on my life.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Hannah. I was kind of going to touch on that. I would absolutely not say that we're in a bubble. We are, certainly the school is held upright, and there is goodness certainly in the school. But I think that the principles that we're learning now, later in life, we go off to college, and in life when we're presented with those evil times or evil hits us in the face, we're going to be able to face that in a way we've kind of trained ourselves to learn the how and the why to handle the evil. And so I think a lot of the ethics and spiritual discussions we have in class are absolutely going to benefit us later in life.
How would, if you had to pick a piece of literature that you have read that discusses evil this semester, make some comment about how literature gives you insight to human evil.
Well, a piece of literature, not necessarily a novel that we've read, though we've read a lot of novels that touch on this issue, was an essay I just finished for Dr. Paulson's class called Christ and Nothing. And it was brilliant. I was shocked. It was hard to read, but it was amazing. When I finished it, I was very enlightened. It's talking about how Christianity, now in society, this modern religion, in some sense, is if you don't face Christianity, you're facing this abyss of nothingness. And oftentimes in our society, our religion or what we worship is our own individual volition. And that will is no longer tethered to a God or a higher transcendental standard. So our will is just free to do what it wants to do. And so we do whatever feels right or whatever we think is good. And that's kind of the religion that is in modernity. And the essay is very complex, and I'm probably maybe missing big points. But the point being that we are in a time when people do what they want to do because they feel like it's the right thing to do. Not because it's morally right, not because it is actually good, but because they feel it's good. And you can see how dangerous that can be. That this thing that is actually wrong, it feels right to me, so I'm going to do it, and I'm justified in doing that. And that's a dangerous thing. And so I'm sure today we're going to discuss the essay, but I think it was really interesting that as Christians, we need to be cautious that this is our reality, that people are free to do what they want to do and obey what they want to do. And that's just one piece of literature that I thought.
Ryan or Blake?
Well, I definitely would say that one piece of literature that we've discussed through our time that deals with this evil that we face in our world would be the Brothers Karamazov. The Brothers Karamazov, in a sense, puts all the sensualism that is in our society and has been in our society for a long period of time on display for all to see. And it shows the conflict debating between living a moral life and having a spiritual reality rather than living a sensualistic lifestyle and more nihilistic approach.
Albert Einstein considered the Brothers Karamazov the greatest work of literature ever written, as did Sigmund Freud. And these young people read that, and they're reading other great works of literature, both in philosophy and literature, because we are a classical school, and that's what we do. I'm going to open the floor briefly for questions from parents, students, and faculty. We can only take a few, but if anybody has a question, please feel free to ask it. Surely you're not afraid to ask them a question. We are so blessed to have these young people in our school and have great discussions with them every day about monumental ideas. Yes, ma'am.
I just had a question. It was more for you. You at one time explained to me, I think it was like the trilogy of a classical Christian education. I would just love to hear that again.
Are you all hearing me okay without a mic? So the trilogy of a classical education is this. Number one, classical literature and art. So anything pertinent to literature and the arts, whether novels or paintings or sculptures or classical works of music. That's what it means to be a classical school. If you walk in Dr. Paulson's room, or you walk in my room, or Mrs. Jones' room with the upper school kids, you'll hear classical music in the background. And we study classical art as well. Dr. Paulson's class, classical philosophy. My class, classical literature. So classical means first, the classics. And that's really important because if you've ever tasted filet mignon, you prefer it over bologna. Am I correct about that? Okay. The second thing classical means is classical languages. We have two very well-learned classical Latin teachers in our schools, Dr. Paulson and Mr. Seeler. We also have the classical Latin program that's used by 85% of classical Latin schools in Great Britain called Cambridge Latin. And it is where's T? T. What about Latin? What about Latin?
It's really fun. I feel like when you have a book, it makes it so much easier to learn.
Didn't it change the way you felt about Latin?
Yes, sir.
And other people as well?
Yes, sir.
And it's really important to study Latin because roughly 70% of words in the English language are derivative of Latin. Kiefer, when you took the Duke Talent Identification Test, how did studying Greek help you?
Greek helped with the reading comprehension. I saw words that I had never heard or read before, and I was able to analyze those and figure out what they meant.
By the way, I brutalized the 7th grade last year with Greek, but it paid off, didn't it? So, classical literature, works of art, and music. Classical language, particularly in our school, Latin. And then thirdly, classical methodology. So typically, Blake, in our classroom, is there more monologue or more dialogue?
In our classroom, there's definitely a lot more dialogue than monologue.
You all know who Dr. Spock is, right? So with Dr. Spock, you can have a Vulcan mind fusion, correct? So when we have Dostoevsky, who is a genius, and read Dostoevsky, a genius, We are marrying Dostoevsky's mind to ours. And we're marrying one another's minds to one another. We're having an intellectual fusion. The greatest thing about that, though, is that we cautiously do that in light of God's Word, which is the preeminent piece of literature in our curriculum. Anyone else have a question? We really are what we say we are. We are a classical Christian school. Yes. Are you waving at me? Yes, sir.
What's the Brothers of Karamazov?
Say again, please.
What's the Brothers of Karamazov?
He wants to know what is the Brothers of Karamazov about. Come by my office. Well, I'll tell you what it's about. It's about three brothers, each of which represents one dimension of the Freudian theory of personality. One, the id, which is all your appetites, including the worst ones, and that, who represents the id?
Dmitry Fyodorovich.
Dmitry Fyodorovich. The other one represents the ego, the intellect, and the will. Who represents that?
That would be Ivan.
That would be Ivan. The third brother represents the superego, that is the moral governance of one's life. And who represents that?
Alyosha.
Like I said, come by my office. I'll explain that to you. Powerful book. All right, we're going to pray, dismiss, and return to class. And any parent who wants to stay and talk, I and Dr. Paulson will be available. Let's bow our heads.